Hey everyone, so I wanted to make a video talking about my experience finding a lump and it ended up being a fibroadenoma. So basically, about 3 years ago, I found a lump and it was pretty big. It was 3 centimeters big. It felt like a bone, like a rock, like a marble actually. So I found this lump and I went to my primary doctor and she sent me to get an ultrasound done. Now, it really depends. If you're like over the age of 40, they might find it in the mammogram and send you for an ultrasound, but at minimum, at least you'll do like an ultrasound. So my doctor went, she wrote me a paper to get an ultrasound done. Just make sure on the order form it says what you want to do. Like if you want the radiologist to scan like your whole breast to see if there's other lumps, write it on the paper. For me personally, my doctor just wrote, hey, scan her lump. And that's what the radiologist did. They actually didn't scan like my whole breast, only that lump. So it's just like a tip I wanted to mention to you real quick is if you find a lump, at minimum, you're definitely going to get an ultrasound done. If you're older, you might get like a mammogram and an ultrasound done. But for me, she gave me a piece of paper and was like, hey, to the radiologist, just scan her lump. And that's what she did. But I didn't get like my whole breast scanned, only that lump. So I was kind of bummed out a little bit, but just make sure that if you do get the order form for the ultrasound, make sure that it says what you want the radiologist to do. So I got my paper and they did the ultrasound. Now, before doing my ultrasound, I went on YouTube and I found a video that basically talked about the characteristics of a lump, like breast lumps. It talked about what like a benign breast lump would look like or like a malignant one. So I'm gonna leave the URL down below. So basically what I did was before I went and got my ultrasound done, I studied images. You don't have to do that, but I just kind of wanted to know like if, my lump looked benign or if it looks something kind of dangerous like breast cancer. So I'm gonna leave the link down below. But I actually made like a little study guide for myself and I could show you guys real quick, but if you don't want to like hear it from me because I'm not a doctor, I just want to talk about some characteristics of like ultrasounds when you go in, just so you kind of have a heads up. But if you don't want to know, you could just kind of skip this part of the video, and then after the ultrasounds I'm going to talk about the different procedures and the surgeries and all that. So I'm gonna leave this link down below, but I found like a video on YouTube that showed different images. So basically, this is what a benign lump would look like. It's not actually black, it's dark gray, and it looks like an oval. And sometimes underneath you'll have light shining through, not always, but it should look kind of like an oval. It should look whiter, and you might have these things that kind of look like clouds. This would be considered a benign lump. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a fibroadenoma. There are other benign lumps out there, and I will leave like a list down below. But if you go in, right, and you get your ultrasound done, and if it looks something like this, it's a pretty good sign. It gets kind of tricky because I know some girls have more than one lump. You might have something called fibrocystic breast, which basically is like a cyst and lumps together. And I'm gonna kind of show you guys that like super fast, because it's not everybody has one lump. People might have multiples, and when they do ultrasounds, you kind of want to have an idea. So if you have more than one lump, if the doctor is just like, hey, you have something called a fibrocystic breast, it's a little different than a fibroadenoma. Fibrocystic means there's a lump and cyst together, and they kind of go away like when you're on your period. But a fibroadenoma itself is just like a solid lump that doesn't disappear. But if you have a lumpy breast, chances are it might look something like this. Basically, again, it's very similar to a benign lump, but this part right here is like a cyst. It kind of has it kind of does like a little bit of a shadow, but you want something that looks whiter. This is a good thing. This is like these are called fibrocystic breasts. And this right here would look something like a fibroadenoma. Usually it's oval, sometimes it's a circle. It's nothing to really like freak out over. It's like a good thing. Now, you know, when you look at this, the technician will be like, hey, this looks fine. There are images of breast cancer that I also have. Kind of nervous to show you guys, but I just rather have you guys, if you want to know, you could just kind of look at it like as I show you. But you know, I'm not a doctor, but this is just based off what I found. So basically, let's just say you find a lump, right? And they put the probe on top of your lump during the ultrasound. If your lump is a little hard to find, it might be kind of a suspicious thing. So I'm going to show you like a picture of something what like a malignant lump might look like, or like breast cancer. So I don't really want you guys to like freak out as much, but for those of you that want to know, then just look at this image. So I printed this out. Basically, if you have a lump, right, you want it to kind of look like this, but let's just say you go in, your lump's 2 centimeters, and if it like literally blends into the background, and a lot of shadowing, but you notice that it's not like round, it's more like a taller than wide, and it's not even like a round circle. The edges are literally spiked. Honestly, you can't even see it. It would look something like this. Like you can't even see it. It just looks like a dark shadow, not like a circle or anything that's oval. This is kind of like a suspicious finding. You could go in and have something like this, and they might say, "Oh, what is it? It's like a BR4, BR3." I think mine was a BR4, but I ended up having a fibroadenoma. Don't go off the numbers so much, but kind of see that like if it's hard to see like this, then it's not really a good sign. Now, I have read articles where there was like a lump that looked something like this and it ended up being a fibroadenoma. So looks could be deceiving, but for those who want to know, you're looking for something like this on top. It could also be a circle, and it's okay if it has the shadow. Just make sure that it's like a kind of like an oval versus just like something that blends in. Again, I found this thing on YouTube, and I'll link it down below. So basically, let's just rewind. When you find a lump, it's going to feel like a rock or like a bone. You go into your, I want to say primary doctor, that's who I went to. She's going to give you a paper for an ultrasound. When you get the paper for the ultrasound, make sure it's what you want. If you want both of your breasts scanned, write it on the order form. For me personally, she just scanned my lump. She didn't scan my whole breast. So I want to just emphasize, make sure your order form is what you want. And when you go in to get your ultrasound done, you are going to see the image on the screen. So some people want to know like what a benign lump would look like, and some people don't want to know because they're scared. For me personally, I wanted to know. So I'll leave the link down below for this. It's like a 15-minute long video. This is literally the cliff version. There's way more like images on there. So let's just say, you know, like you go in, right? I'll talk about my experience. My lump was 3 centimeters big. It's pretty damn big, actually. It looked like this, actually, but 3 centimeters. The next step is you could do a couple things. You could actually keep the lump in there if you want. I personally didn't because I was pretty paranoid. So the option is you could actually do a biopsy or you could do surgery. It really depends on the size of your lump. So let's talk about that biopsy real quick. You have something called fine needle biopsy, core biopsies, and then you have like surgery done. For the fine needle and core biopsy, the thing is, if you have a lump, the radiologist will try to get you to do a biopsy versus surgery. Now for me, my lump was 3 centimeters big and I knew I wanted it out. So I actually skipped the core biopsy and needle biopsy. I went straight for surgery. You could do that if your lump is big enough. If you have a smaller lump, like 1 centimeter big, and you want to get surgery done, it might be a little bit difficult. this happened to my mom. My mom's lump was pretty small and she wanted to get surgery done, and the doctor was like, you know, just do the core biopsy, but we didn't give up. So my mom actually ended up getting surgery done and not doing like a core biopsy or a needle biopsy because she wanted the whole lump out, you know, and I get it. Sorry. Um, but basically, a lot of people do is they actually do a biopsy first and then surgery later, or they never do it. But for me personally, I did surgery because my lump was really big, and I personally wanted to have my whole lump removed versus just taking biopsies. So I think in my next video, I want to talk about the different procedures, and then I'll talk about my surgery, and then maybe the different types of lumps, because I don't want this video to be too long. I'm also recording this on my laptop, so there's no editing. But basically, just to go over today's points, make sure make sure you first have a lump for sure. It's gonna feel like a rock. Go get the order form. Definitely do an ultrasound at minimum. If you want to do more scans, you can, depending on your age, but the doctor will give you a paper for ultrasound. Make sure it says that you want both of your breasts scanned or one of them. But for me, like, my doctor just wrote scan my lump. And then when you go in for your ultrasound, if you want to know, you could look at that video of the different breast ultrasounds that I found on YouTube and kind of just look at it. You know, I literally just printed out the images and I just kind of studied it and took this with me. But some people want to know, some people don't. So my next video, I'll just talk about the different type of biopsies and surgeries, and then what I would recommend. So just if you want to know about the second video and like get more information, then just watch it.